I see you found our little hiding spot in the universe. Don't get too comfortable. This is a place where you will find those with an experience that's out of this world, or possibly deep within your life. I welcome you to the Oracles with James Tyson. Lean forward and listen. We will pull you into a supernatural journey with guests from around the world, each one experiencing some of the most extraordinary phenomena this wee planet has to offer. Now, here are the Oracles with James Tyson.
Thank you, Liam, and thank you, listener, for tuning in to today's episode of the Oracles with James Tyson. It's me, James, and today, with me from Virginia, is Christine Alexandria. She is an intuitive angel communicator, and she's dropping by to tell me about this change that we are going through on this planet, moving from a 3D to a 5D existence. Not 5G, like 5 Golf, we're going 5 Delta. That is going from the 3rd dimension to the 5th dimension. We kind of drop in a bit about what the dimensions are. Well, 3rd dimension is more acquiring stuff, and it's more about us as individuals. It's kind of the me, kind of that whole gathering your nuts and putting a fence around everything, and this is mine. And we're slowly as a society moving away from, hopefully a little quicker, away from get off my lawn, this is mine, you can't have it, and then putting a wall up around your house, your town, your state, whatever, and saying that it's all about you. So as we grow in ourselves, as our soul path expands, as some people would say, as your spirit expands, or people just say you awaken, we move into the love others and support others phase of being. That's the 5th dimension. And we talk a little bit about why we go from 3rd to 5th without jumping into the 4th. So that's what we're going to be doing today. And we're also going to talk about how that relates to stuff that's going on around us in this bizarre 2020 and all the crap that happened globally and is still going on in those areas where people really haven't woken up too much. And it's still all about them. And it's the me. It's that 3rd dimension, my stuff. And, we'll discuss a little bit about that. Basically as we shift in gears through dimensions. We discuss a little bit about her life as an angel communicator and an intuitive. She is a highly sought after angel intuitive and award-winning inspirational author and founder of Angel Chatter. And if you want to if you want to follow her website, don't fire her website. It's Angel Chatter, all one word, angelchatter.com, and you can see what she has there and the types of things she has. A lot of courses coming up too. She is a creator of a popular and empowering Angel Chatter Oracle card deck. She also launched an online Angel Chatter authorization course. It takes all the angels in the Angel Chatter Oracle deck and brings them to life basically in such a way to empower you and instill the knowing you are chatting with them, and can confidently relay the messages to your clients if you're using them, the Oracle cards, to do readings for people. Her course varies vastly, an incredible array of topics, talking about chakras, crystals, energies, mission, and gives you homework. It's quite interesting. She also has a secret Facebook group that offers ongoing support for past as well as present students of her courses. She's very sought after as an inspirational speaker through radio and television appearances, as well as sacred angelic readings. Just healings, coaching, a lot of coaching services. She currently lives in the Washington, D.C. metro area with her husband and a couple of her cats, as well as, we talk about this quite often when she drops by, the spirit of her late little Yogi Doodle, Gabi, who's always following her around when she's out on her walks in the woods. So, yeah, that's our Christine Alexandria. I'm going to go get her. You guys wait here. I know, I think we had a little bit of an audio challenge in talking, but we always do with Christine. But please, again, if you want to follow along at home, go to her website. It's angelchatter.com. Find Angel Chatter on Facebook, or Christine Alexandria on Facebook, and go visit her there. I'll go get her now. Hello, Christine. How are you today?
I am so well. Thank you so much for asking, James. And how about you?
I am so well, too, because it's actually sunny here. We've been getting these weird little bouts of 6 days of rain, 2 days of sun, and today is a sunny day, as was yesterday. So it's cut the lawn day. And
yes, you got rain coming in tomorrow. Yeah, it's really crazy because we live in Virginia, and it tends to be pretty humid. And the last 2 days have been, for this area, super low humidity, which means I've gotten a chance and have taken full advantage of it. I've gone out for walks in the woods and go on for a good 5 miles plus. So it's been rather lovely.
Well, somebody like you who is intuitive, walking through the woods of Virginia, where basically United States history was made, trekking through those woods. Do you ever get a feeling for that kind of post-European occupation of that area? A lot of movement through that area?
Oh, yeah. No, not so much directly where we live now, but a number of years ago, I was in Williamsburg with my parents, and we were actually over at, I think it was Jamestown. And, I'm just kind of off walking along on my own a little bit. And my parents are 18th century reenactors, so they're really steeped into the history. And I saw my dad first. I said, "Hey, Daddy, did you see that boat?" And he goes, "What boat?" I said, "There was a huge boat that I had no idea. It was going left. I have no idea if it was going upstream, downstream, what it was. It was going left. Didn't you see? It was huge." And he's looked at me like I'm daft. And it was as clear to me as the pen is on my desk. It was rather freaky. And I'm getting chills as I'm sharing the story. So, yeah, I do get glimpses. We were, years and years ago, we did a little car tour of Gettysburg, where you've been. And I'm not a history buff. There's just too much pain in there for me. I know the basics, maybe. So we're tooling around, and we get out to Devil's Den. Well, first of all, I don't like the name, but okay, I'm here, I'm going to learn, I'm going to do all this stuff. And we go in, and my daughters and I, all three of us, just want to hurl, and then my husband goes, "Well, this is what happened here." I'm like, "Then why did you take us here?" Because the three of us really got hit with what had happened during the war. And the very same thing happened to us when we were at the Colosseum in Rome. We couldn't wait to get out. I'm so glad we didn't do an official tour of the Colosseum, because we're in there, and my daughters and I were going, "I don't feel so good." I'm like, "Can we leave now, please?" So, yeah, the residual energy can be monster for me.
I love the stories about Devil's Den.
Right. Yeah, there's a guy that's been said that he still shows up to the tourists, and they'll talk about him to other rangers. And the story is so common now. They're like, "Oh, yeah, that's Major or General or Corporal so-and-so."
Yeah, he was commander of the Texas Volunteers. And he's, other than, when you think about the Civil War, you think of the gray uniforms and the blue uniforms. They were pretty shabby. Some of these guys may not even have had shoes. They were pretty beat up. And this guy would show up, and there was one story. There was a kid there, and he had a shirt that said Texas on it. And he was kind of walking by, and this guy came around a corner, pointed at his shirt, and said, "Texas." And the kid looked at him, looked down at his shirt, like, "Yeah," and looked back up, and the guy was gone. And it was the same description of the fellow, where there was a couple of other tourists looking at a map or looking at a program, and they were trying to figure out how to get from point A to point B. And the guy dropped over their shoulder and said, "Oh, you just got to go up that hill and to the left." And they said, "Okay, thanks." Yeah. And then again, who the heck was that? scruffy old guy, and he disappeared too. So it's always the same guy, but they believe he's he was the commander of, or the way he's been described matches the description of the commander of the Texas Volunteers, who basically I don't want to be wrong in this, but I throw this out. I think they were all pretty well wiped out at Devil's Den, which is a real craggy rock.
Okay.
Kind of, you've seen it. It's kind of this craggy rock area, which is a really good hiding spot if you're being attacked.
It's a really good hiding spot. It's a really good ambush spot because there's no place to go. So quite a few perished in that one specific location. So, and you have a guy like that who's obviously very aware and intelligent and can have conversations. And the boat I saw, I'm going to guess, is more of what they call residual energy. There was probably a boat at some point that went up the river or down the river, whatever it was. And I just happened to hit it at that right moment. I was in a different space mind-wise. I wasn't looking for anything, and it just simply happened. And I'm seeing actually a lot more of it, in the last couple of weeks. And I'll look again like, okay, was that a firefly? Was that a hummingbird? Was that just a bird? But I keep seeing flashes of people going by when I'm out in the backyard lately. So there's certainly energy is heightening. The veil is much, much thinner. You and I had talked offline about the third to the fifth dimension, and that's part of it.
Well, just to touch on that, first of all, what's the third dimension and what is the fifth dimension? And we're not going to get this, and please don't get this mixed up, listener, with the 5G and all the blah about that. We're talking about 5D, D like Delta. 5D. Dimension.
Exactly. So third dimension in general, so these are going to be general terminologies. It's much more ego-centric, very caught up in fear. And we see it all the time, even down to the weather. Is there a snowstorm coming? Stay tuned, listeners. Do you have to stock up? Everybody runs off for the milk, bread, orange juice, and eggs. Right? Or booze, or all of the above. So it's very fear oriented. It's very ego based. There's that sense of jealousy, keeping up with the Joneses, and it's more materialistic based. It's not to say we can't have lovely, nice things in higher dimensions, but more in 3D, it's driven by acquiring that stuff versus simply enjoying it. It's very jealousy, and they'll see a lot of people, and I've had it happen to me where people start imitating me. And I actually had a woman kind of became a stalker-ish, and we got the FBI involved and stuff. So things that I had created, she says were hers. And, I went on a trip to France 2 years ago, and one of the places was Mary Magdalene's Basilica. I purchased one of the relics there. According to her, it was hers. So it was very, very third dimension or lower. It was very fear-based, very greed, jealousy, ego, and where love now has conditions, hence the term unconditional love. Love at its core, and this, love at its core has no conditions. It never has, and it never will. It's not, honey, I love you, but, or it's not, I love him or her, but I love you. Hey, did you take out the trash? That all sorts of stuff makes it conditional. Oh, you'll love me more if I take the trash out? Right? It's very, very, it's so ingrained in our thinking that we say it without even thinking it, or we'll use terms, love you, which is sweet. But if I say love you to you, it's like, okay, that's nice. It's kind of like a flippant comment. If I say I love you, Jim, okay, that's nice. It's not my name. Or I love you, Jimmy. Okay, not my name, really. I love you, James, has much greater impact because that's the name our soul recognizes in this life. So it's that soul recognition, which is what we all crave. See me, please see me. I don't want to be anybody but me, but we get caught in that third. If I do this, maybe I'll be recognized. If I wear that outfit, I'll be more powerful. If I live in that house, people will know. Or I drive that car, or I wear that clothing, they'll know because I'm wearing that label. It's all very see me, but kind of for the wrong reasons. It's that third dimension. So the fifth dimension is much more love centered. And it's the I love yous, and you stop. I tell my daughter, I love you, and I'll add their name. And they've gotten so used to it, and it's a lovely thing to see. I see them doing the same thing within their world because they're both married and, having lives, and their families have extended. So when I see them mimicking that, okay, great. We've got the ripple effect going. So, and that's a lot of what's going on now with the pandemic because it's global. Everybody's been pushed to their corners. Go stand in your corner. You've been rather naughty. It's the civil unrest, which is also global. And I'm still convinced had Mr. Floyd's murder happened before the pandemic, the quarantine hit, it still would have been absolutely horrific. But I'm still convinced it would not have had the same global impact it's had because people would have just continued to carry on. But because we are now, so many of us are forced to stay home or go out with a small leash, so to speak, hopefully more are reflecting. Hopefully more are thinking about what's really important to them. What are their four cores that motivate them to live the life that they really desire? What are their whys? Why do I want that? Why do I want to be that? Why do I want to have that? So we can reflect upon that. So I shared with you, I think, a couple of weeks ago, one of my mentees brought to me an image that one of her friends had channeled and drew. And she said, hey, can you translate it? Okay, we'll give it a go. This is a new one on me, but let's play. And there was a lot of stuff going on with this, but what they had me really focus on is that it was an 8-pointed star. So 4 of the points were completely void of anything interior or exterior, just a plain old point. 2 of the points had interior symbology going on, and the last 2 points had interior, exterior. And that's really where they had me focus. I'm like, okay, so what's the deal here? So the 4 that are completely void was 50%, representing 50% of humanity that was living very much with blinders on and just doing what they needed to do. Groundhog Day, different version than what we're living now. Get up, go to your job, come home, eat dinner, collapse in front of the TV, go to bed, rinse and repeat. And there would be, and I'm not trying to be glib, and there would be moments where things would shift, but pretty much stay the course kind of a deal, and not open to alternatives, not open to thinking, as an example, there's life possibly on other planets. As one little example, that there were more ways to get to an answer. Nope, this is how we've always done it. That's how you have to do it. End of discussion. So that was that 50%.
Okay.
The 2 points that had interior only were 25% of humanity that went, I wonder, could there be life on another planet? How silly is it to think that we're the only supposedly intelligent race in the entire galaxy? I wonder if there's other ways to get to that outcome that I covet. So they were open. They weren't quite sure if there was or not, but they were open to the possibility. Okay. So then the last 2, the ones that were interior and percent of humanity, are the ones that are truly sense of love, that are truly as unjudgmental as they could be in their human body, but aware that everything does indeed have a reason, and things are culminating right now for a much larger purpose. Realizing that offering advice to one that hasn't asked is wasting airspace because they're not going to listen. Understanding that all have their own journey and they stand in their power simply being, and people will watch, observe, and be inspired to begin to shift within themselves. So when this whole little adventure that 2020 is offering to us all, my fervent hope, prayer, desire is that 50% will have interior, exterior illustrations, meaning awake. 25% will begin to wonder, maybe. And there'll still be 25% that are still, stay in the course, got to do this. This is what I have to do. And that would be a huge step forward for humanity in general, because it's really, I mean, it sounds coy, it sounds fluffy, and I get it. Love is powerful, and it is. But love can anger you. It can propel you to become an activist of sorts, depending on the cause. But it can also remind you, I don't necessarily have to be on the front lines. I can support in other ways that best suits me, and both is okay. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
So it's a really cool adventure, and especially when you can pull back and just allow yourself to be, knowing you're there to help inspire and empower, which is, okay, they just put those words in my mouth, which is funny because that's one of my taglines, to help lift another up. And knowing you don't have all the answers, and you never pretend to have all the answers. I'm not, and I'll tell my students that I am not the Wizard of Oz. If I don't know, I'm going to tell you. So I'm going to be the most truthful. And I will always, to the best of my ability, to be truthful. I mean, years ago, we were doing a show in Massachusetts, and I was in my lecture, and this one participant said, well, can we email the angels? And one of my clients was in there. She goes, you became a codfish. She goes, it was hysterical. And I just kept looking at this person going, and I just went back and forth and back and forth. And I said, let me get back to you on that, because I now, thanks to you, have an idea. So now we have a free service via my website, Email the Angels.
Well, that's kind of cool.
And it's just a way you can dump and share and give thanks, because it's never monitored. I never look at it.
So, and again, for people who don't know where your website is, it's angelchatter.com. That's angel. Because we were talking about this off air. Angel Chatter, all one word, .com. And you can see all the bits and pieces of, everything you do that's there, from your classes to some jewelry and books and things like that. It's interesting. We're talking about the third dimension as being the ego side, the acquiring stuff, the hoarding, the gathering your nuts, and these are mine. Everything it's the me.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah.
Now, and then we go to the love of the fifth dimension. What the heck happened to the fourth? If we're going numerically here,
I've often wondered that myself. And I think I'm equating, and if there's a listener that knows more than this, please let us know. I associate, and this is just what they've told me, because I have asked them, meaning the angels and the masters and goddess, everybody that I work with, and it's more of a transitional phase. So when one starts resonating in the fifth, it doesn't mean they're constantly there. Many, I feel we can comfortably say that, the Dalai Lama is certainly much more in the fifth, but he does operate. He has to come back to the third, so to speak, to offer breadcrumbs, metaphorically, to those that can follow and be uplifted again. But his life in general is much more isolating than most of us. That, he can stay in that fifth longer and really resonate and exude just by being in his presence. Much like the hugging saint, Amma, same kind of deal. She can resonate there because she has a bevy of people to tend to her, quote, earthly needs. I'm going to go with, until I hear differently, that it's just simply more of a transitional dimension where you're like kind of on the fence.
Okay. And I think,
which way do I want to go kind of?
Yeah, I'm kind of getting to that. It's the baby of awakening, of understanding that ego is this is ego. This is my stuff. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden realizing, what am I doing this for? Oh, it's all about me. But I'm really interested now into, maybe I want to share this with another person. So there's that transition from 3 to 5. So it's like it's the waiting room to 5. Let's put it that way.
That's the way to put it.
You've basically went, okay, I'm on the treadmill. I'm running. I'm gathering my nuts, and now it's like, okay, dude, what am I doing? This is crazy. Right. Take that step off and look into self. And while looking into self, you get that. As soon as you start looking into self, you've opened up your mind. You opened up your spirit to accept the fifth.
Oh, without a doubt, and beyond, because fifth isn't the last stop here, folks. But many of your listeners may not. We had a beautiful dog, as all dogs are, and she was a golden doodle, and her name was Gabi. And her full name was actually Gabriella, but was quickly called Gabi. And you know how to spell it, so I can't trick you. But most people would spell her name Gabby.
Yep.
Right? That's kind of normal. And my little head got all into this argument. No, that's not how you spell her name. It's Gabi. And then I would pull back and going, seriously? She's a dog. She doesn't care how her name is spelled. But it's like it was adamant. It was Gabi. Okay, Chris, just stop the nonsense. So I said, all right, what's the deal here? What's going on? And they go, oh, glad you asked. Her name is an acronym for Grace Always Begins Inside. So what you just said, it's when we do that internal work, we said, okay, this is really all about me, because this is what I frequently tell my mentees and students, you are the cog that holds your personal wheel together. If you don't like one of those spokes, if you don't like something in your life, instead of blaming another, let's go, okay, this is my life. What can I do or not do to shift this? Because it is my mindset that started this happening. It is my way of thinking and my way of currently doing, I'm not going to even say being, of doing life that has prompted this. So now, take some ownership. Go back to that essence of love. Pull in the grace. Ask your guides, whomever they may be. But then the key is, as you know, shut up. Because it's when we're quiet, you get to see those cool boats going upstream. It's when you're quiet, you get ideas of what you could do. So a few years ago, when I was expanding the authorization course, I was working on Sandalphon's lesson. And he said, I want the Kabbalah included. Sure you do. I can barely spell the Kabbalah, let alone feel any remote morsel of being qualified to teach it. He said, come on, let's go for a walk. Okay. So a whole lot of face rubbing involved. So I said, all right. Okay, dude, let's go out. So I went out for a walk in the woods, and he was able to explain it to me in such a way, and please don't quite test me on this right now because I will so not answer correctly, but he was able to explain the Kabbalah in its basic, most rudimentary form on how he wanted it included. And as things go, I'm constantly changing and how I can better serve, and I'm thinking of taking the course and making it a bit more mainstream, because I realize a lot of the students are doing it for their own evolution. They have no intention of becoming an angel card reader, which is great. I'm honored and thrilled that they think so. So maybe they don't, I'm thinking, again, mind, that they don't need all this information if they're doing it for their own growth. So I was thinking about removing the Kabbalah to make it a bit more mainstream, easier for those that didn't want to become an angel reader, trying to make it, a bit more user-friendly, shall we say. So I asked my students, I said, what do you think about this? And they all jumped collectively and said, no, keep it. We love that part. Okay. So it's that little bit of listening, and moving forward, because I often, not so much these days, I'm getting more comfortable with my gifts and power. But initially I was like, well, who the heck am I? Here I am, little Chrissy from a little tiny town in Delaware. And you're telling me I'm going to create an oracle deck because that was my first product. And I pretty much fell on the floor laughing at them. I'm like, yeah, God knows the world has enough oracle decks. And they went on to this whole big explanation of this deck would be different. It was going to have illustrations. The messages from them would stand on their own. And I'm like, okay. So I ended up, I can now comfortably say, channel the deck and guidebook in 2 weeks. This was, of course, after arguing with them for a few months because I was still not taking ownership of this. So I finally sat down and did it. But we couldn't find the right rendition because it needed to have something. It just couldn't be a bunch of words on a card. And it was about a year later, a friend at the time said, hey, what about angel symbols? I'm like, okay. So allowed, again, to receive their messages very directly. And in one evening, because there are 14 angels in the deck, each angel came forward and offered up what I thought then was a symbol, but what I now know is a sigil, which is a symbol that has power, energy behind it, and which made the deck very...
Wait a minute. Are you talking about those line symbols? Those line things?
Yes, I'm talking about those line symbols, so the one you have a tattoo of Michael on you.
Yes, so it has power. Interesting.
Yes. Those have power. And so this was a really cool story. A friend of mine, she's adopting a beautiful, gorgeous little boy and a product that I discontinued, sun drops, but they were pewter medallions, rather big, about 3 inches in length, and had glass feet. So think of sun catchers, but sun catchers with intention. So I sent her 4 sun drops when they got the little guy. And they're just now getting around to putting them around his crib and whatnot. So she pulled them out and she placed them on the bed. Now, keep in mind, this little guy's 16 months, I think now. He picked up each one, kissed it, and put it back down. She wrote to me, she's like, I can't believe he just did that. I said, because he is not being told they have energy. He recognizes the power behind them.
That's interesting.
I mean, that just blew everybody's mind. But how cool is that? But that's why those things with lines, as you call them, are now scattered throughout my website. They're on the labels for the aromatherapy. They've been made into jewelry because they do have power. So they strengthen. I mean, you all, meaning clients and attendees at shows, proved to me, it's not me saying it, you all proved it to me, that they strengthen your connection with that particular angel.
Well, it's interesting because it took Reiki and there was all sorts of hand movements and
right.
The 7 little swirls and things like that. And all these movements, the shapes meant something.
Exactly. Right.
I've got your I've just got a book called Angel Chatter, which is, believe it or not, is yours. Actually, I bought it, so it's mine.
Yes, it is yours.
And I'm going through here and I'm looking at all the little symbols, the shapes and symbols and the lines for the I almost said archangels, the archenemy, archangels.
The archangels.
And, so they're very cool. I really like it. I resonated with that one for Michael. I have one I have a Michael tattoo that's from like 150 AD. And then I have yours from like 3 years ago or whatever it was. I actually got it in Sturgis, South Dakota.
Wow.
I came up. There was a tattoo artist from New York, and I said, I want this on my hand. And he looked at the arm, and he said, what? What is that? And I said, oh, it's a long story. So I proceeded to tell him the long story while he was gouging it into my skin. which is a whole other issue too. And we've talked about this. It's like, because I do background work in television shows, and as a result of some fiasco with Mike Tyson's face tattoo in The Hangover, we have to actually get a release from the tattoo artist and to say that they don't own that image. So I've always said, oh, yeah, the person who designed that, that person's gone. Or I'll say, oh, no, it's my design. It's okay. So I really don't want to have to keep phoning you and saying, hey, can you fill out a release for Supergirl for me because they may see my tattoo?
Yeah, I just want to give you a blank, You just have a standard release. And she says, yeah, it's good. Let's just all move on now.
It's fun, so I like the images, and it's interesting that you're now saying that those aren't just the things that were presented to you on behalf of each of the angels, but there is a purpose. And I notice now, it's hard to explain on air, but the Archangel Michael tattoo it looks like a
sword.
A sword, and if I could describe it to people as a martini glass with a big blip coming out of the middle, like on an EKG machine. Now, on one of the pieces of the martini glass, there is a line with the olive, or there's a little dot. Now, I've seen you draw this where that line actually moves in an arc, where that dot, in my case, is right over top of the base, but it has moved a few times. What is the significance of the movement of that arm or that piece? Is it one is like
from the human perspective? I will not make up. Yeah, I'm not a story that sounds grandiose. I have no idea. I'm going to go that it's Michael playing games. So for those of you that have worked with Archangel Michael will know the guy's got a sense of humor.
Oh, hell yeah.
He's like the best big brother you've ever had, which means he will tease the crap out of you and tease you to get to do something. But he is the first one to say, get behind me. I'm here to protect you. Yeah. And so I would not be, and you brought it to my attention because certain cards within the deck, that dot is in a different location, which is bizarre because the image was copied from card to card to card. So why it changed, have no clue. So it has to go with Michael. So there, as an example, there's one card that he presents in the deck, and it's Stand in Your Power. And I had many people proofread, the first edition. I had easily 6 people look over this whole deck and the guidebook, making sure everything lined up. Because it was my first thing. So I was really, really petrified, to be honest, to put it out there. So it had to be as perfect as possible. Every single person missed, as it's presented in the guidebook, Archangel Jophiel comes in. And I just went, how did we all miss that, for starters? And what the heck? What the heck, guys? So Michael and Jophiel both oversee the solar plexus, our power center. So Michael, this is how they explained it to me. Michael gets in your face and it's like, stand in your power. And you typically back up and go, I'm trying. But it can be scary to be powerful, empowering, and be seen and heard and recognized. Because, so many are afraid of being judged, ridiculed, trolled, stalked, all of those weird things. So Jophiel also overseeing this area. Once you are your most powerful when you are in joy. I'm like, okay, so she gets in there in the guidebook.
I'm going to jump in really quick here. Could you say that again, because you cut out about a sentence and a half ago?
Oh, I did again.
You just started breaking up.
Okay, so Jophiel presents the message in the guidebook, and she reminds you that you are your most powerful when you're in your joy, which doesn't mean there's an agenda, which doesn't mean you're being nasty or egocentric. You are simply being you. So then it becomes a much easier adventure to stand in power because there is no agenda.
Sorry.
It's just
bigger.
So what
it becomes a bigger adventure to what? Sorry.
To be yourself. It becomes much more enjoyable. No play on words here. So a frequent homework assignment is I will tell clients, go watch the silliest movie that you love. And when you're laughing, remember, this is me being me. I am living the present moment. And at this exact moment, I am completely powerful. And it begins that little shift of owning who you are.
Okay. In your work, who do you work with? Actually, when you were like putting cards together, and when you do readings, and when you're teaching and helping others, who do you draw from? Do you actually draw from them, or do they just show up? That's another thing too. It's like I'm thinking about doing a class in this, and
that's a really good question. Yeah, that's a really good question. So it's the angels were my first thing. You know, it was working with them, but it was when I had a phone reading. Oh gosh, probably 15 plus years ago, and it was like I said, a phone reading, and she called in Archangel Ariel. And before I could spot what I was going to say, I blurted out Pinky. And I don't remember anything else from that reading. But that night when I go to now front and center, and now expecting Ariel to come in, I went, it's you. Actually, my guardian angel. But as a child in the crib, she was color pink. So I gave her the name of Pinky. So that confirmed to me, I wasn't going nuts, that I do indeed have this gift. So angels first and foremost. But in recent times, I'd say the last 3 years, a bevy of goddesses have come out to play. So Mother Mary was the first one. And I argued with her, no, I'm angels. I only do angels. She goes, but I'm the queen of angels. Oh, okay. So that was their foot in the door, so to speak. And since then, Ishtar, Isis have come forward. And the bigger one for me is actually Mary Magdalene. I have a very, very strong connection with her. And Aphrodite and Kuan Yin also, I have created, thanks to them, a sigil, but they're very different than the angelic ones that have also come out in the entire goddess collection. So yeah, right now it's angels and go ahead.
What's the difference between a goddess and an ascended master? I always think of Mary Magdalene and the other Mary as an ascended master, but you
and I do, yeah. Well, because I'm a woman, I like the term goddesses. To put that term out there so other women can begin to own their place, also an ascended master. Just as Saint Germain is an ascended master, just as Mother Mary is an ascended master. But I do also refer to all of them, the women, as goddesses. For they're also high priestesses because of how they lived their life, again, to inspire and empower and lift others up and not be the teacher, but not be the be all that ends all. We're here to work together to grow. The moment I am the leader, but I'm here to help you become a leader in your own right.
In your communication with all the beings that you communicate with, have you got any idea or sense of what religion on this planet would be closest to what they describe?
Cathar. The Cathar religion, without a doubt. Because Cathar, Cathar. I did.
Okay, good. I wasn't sure because we have this weird connection every so often. It breaks up, and I'm thinking, what did you say? I've never heard of Cathar or Cathar. So it's like, okay, how do you go to the Cathar one?
No,
What is
it's
Cathar?
Cathar. So the Cathars actually with, going to get a little rebellious here, with Mary Magdalene's daughter, Sarah Tamar. She is accredited to starting the Cathar religion, and it's talking a lot about what we talked about earlier today in our conversation. It's working through the energy of love. Male and female are equal. So they were the victims of the Inquisition. They're called heretics because, the victors write the history books. They are, I can't remember the name of it, a town in France that I went to, and it's a small little town. You actually can't drive in it. They call it the Avenue of the Martyrs because as they were marched down this lane, more like it, they sang, and then they were all burned at the stake. There's a deserted, crappy-looking castle at this point because it's completely fallen into ruins. It's called Montsegur, Montsegur, where the Cathars were held, blockaded for many months, and they ultimately converted, believe it or not, quite a few of their guards who joined them in the pyre. Though legend has it that 4 escaped, scaled down the back of the mountain because it's at the top of a mountain and it's rather hairy to get up there. So they scaled down the mountain to preserve their most prized possessions. So Catharism went underground, though the last known, quote unquote, Cathar was Guillaume Bilibast. Died 699 years ago, which means in 2021, according to his prophecy, we shall return. Love returns, which supports this whole explosion globally right now of people waking up, of realizing it's been done always this way is not necessarily the right way to do it. It was very much of a community existence and supporting. And it was the teachings, taking the teachings, if you want to get biblical, but it's not in that biblical sense, but taking the teachings of Yeshua and Mary Magdalene and focusing on the within journey, focusing on that essence, that energy, that power of love and the simplicity, but yet the power of it all. Yeah, it's pretty out there, but it's crazy powerful once you allow yourself to be open to that possibility. And I've done not a tremendous amount of research. I've done a tremendous amount of poking around. I've yet to find a really good book on Cathars because it kind of comes from a very judgmental standpoint. But the Cathars are still very much alive. People picked it up. They went underground and were quite quiet about it. And they don't like the title that I am a Cathar, and their will typically be I am human. It's not that I identify as a Catholic or a Baptist or I'm Jewish or whatever, or I'm agnostic or atheist. It's I am human because it is the essence of how we kind of were supposed to be living all this time, but humanity got off course and became very 3D, just very much greed and hoarding, as you said it.
Yeah, I wonder if that 3D, that the greed, the me mentality, and I've talked about this to other intuitives who are rather prophetic and could see things that are coming, and they talk about us moving from me to we.
Oh, without a doubt.
To get that out. Yeah, and that it's coming. It's just going to hurt. There's a lot of damage going to be caused in the process of that movement from me to we.
Oh, and that's any birth is painful. Having gone through it twice, birth is painful, and that's what we are doing across the globe. We are rebirthing, and hopefully many more will be awakened, remembering to the we versus the me. And it's not you have to be of service and be impoverished. I've been told, and I turned right on. A student told me years ago, she's, "Oh, you're getting greedy. Your cases are going up." And I'll say, "Have you learned nothing?" We can have whatever we desire when it resonates with our truth. It doesn't matter if you live in a log cabin or a 10,000 square foot mansion. It doesn't matter as long as it is a true reflection of you. I said, "Do you like to eat?" She goes, "Yeah." I go, "I do too. I like having a nice roof. I love art." Is it expensive art? For the most part, no, that we have in our home. We've had movers ask us if we were art dealers, which I thought was rather endearing. But we love art. And I'm not afraid to say I like nice things. I like having a big space around me, so I feel expansive. I like having the ability to walk out my back door and be in the woods within 10 minutes by walking there. Not everybody's cup of tea. Some people love living in a city. That's perfect for them. But it's that we mentality is absolutely right. It's not the isolationism and having to always compete in order to be better. So I have an energy protection grid, actually quite a few, around the property here. But I set it up that when this land is up and it's running and it's smoothly and there's more to give out, and it's rinse and repeat to all the other surrounding properties. I set it up once and it's done. It will continue even after we move from this home. It will continue to run and operate as that. And the funny thing about it, since I've done that, every single neighbor, the 3 that are directly surrounding us, they're opening up. So it's a really interesting, they're talking to me a whole lot more. And, because, we live in DC, so it's very much a very transitional between the government and the military, a very transitional society. And I think the team helped push that agenda into the we more, because now humans, by nature, we're pretty social animals. Being by ourselves is not the norm 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Some love it, but the majority were very social. So the quarantine is now, okay, I've got only the people in my home. Let me start talking to you now. But it's indeed trickling out to be more the we.
Oh, it's about time.
It is, isn't it? I don't want to say past due. Everything does indeed happen for a reason. It's been one of my mantras for a long time. May not understand the confusion and the hatred, because I certainly don't. I mean, when I was a child, and I'm sharing this little story more and more, the house we first lived in Delaware, my parents had put in privets. We had a corner lot, and I carved out a little niche in these privets, and I'm in there praying for world peace. Who does this? Me.
Well, first of all, what is a privet?
A privet is like you silly Canadian. It's an evergreen bush, very, very small leaves, and it's very dense, so it creates privacy. So it's a natural privacy fence.
Oh, it's a hedge.
More or less. But hedges doesn't have, it's not a real plant name. We're talking to a frustrated landscape architect here. A hedge is a thing it does. A privet is an actual plant.
Oh, okay. So it's a
name. It is a name of a plant, but it does indeed create a hedge, creates a living fence. Oh. Yeah. So I would go into this hedge to make carved out my little thing, and I would go in there and pray for world peace. Seriously. And so that's been my thing for as long as I can remember.
You have a thing, actually, and looking at you from the outside, looking in, is you are very, very connected once you're around plants and nature and in the forest and in the woods and close to things with the roots in the ground. That seems to be your happy place.
Oh, it's very much my happy place. Gardening, I am. I could have been a dynamite landscape architect. It's my therapy by no stretch of the imagination. Because I'm so connected and connecting with angels and goddesses, ascended masters, etc. It's pretty out there. But I still have to function here. So working within the gardens, very, very much a grounding exercise. Going out in the woods, very much of a forest bath experience. The trees, there's this one gorgeous sycamore, and this is grandfather tree. And I always make a point of going up and putting my hands on him every single venture into the woods and thanking him. And it doesn't necessarily last very long, but I go and I talk to him for a few minutes. And it's lovely. It's quite lovely, actually. But yes, this particular land keeps giving back. I was very clay. There's no soil here. It's clay. And I was digging to put in plants because enduring gardener here. And I literally found a gnome. And it was like 6 inches deep. So somebody had to have buried it. And it became quite the little social media thing in my little social media world. It wasn't, an international sensation by any stretch of the imagination. And then I planted Doug with the apple. Well, some animal had the nerve to dig up Doug and the apple. And Doug went MIA. I thought the world had died because I now am missing Doug. Lo and behold, my neighbor finds Doug 2 weeks ago, and she says, I think the gardeners found it in the yard and just tossed it under my deck, but I found your gnome. So this land, I keep finding these little rocks, gorgeous, and I'm digging up plants to put around her. And I find this beautiful, again, we're talking a good 6 to 8 inches in clay, this beautiful marble. So that's now up there with Doug, and it's adding to his little home and his little collection of goodies that I keep finding in random places in the yard. So where we are currently, I find it, one, quite comical. And two, it's the land's way of saying thank you. Finding these random, completely, it goes, Mom, you need to write a book about Doug now. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I might have to. So...
Which is very interesting. We are talking about Doug, a gnome that was found 6 inches under the clay soil. We're talking to Christine Alexandria. Please go to her website, angelchatter.com. Again, angelchatter.com. You channel angels too, don't you? I had a gentleman, Gregory Possiman, come on, who channels ascended masters and angels. And he basically said, would you like to see who comes through? And I said, yeah, whatever. And the Archangel Michael came through. And I always describe him, and that instance and that communication was like imagining Michael was that pre-Coca-Cola Santa Claus, that short-bearded but bass. And he said, do you have any questions for us? And I was like, dude, really? I had no idea you were coming. When you call back in about an hour, we'll have a bunch. It was fascinating. I've never actually had somebody do that or channel, which was absolutely fascinating. When you channel, what do you do to open the door and allow something in? Is it a meditation? Is it a request? And do you channel if someone says, hey,
who shows up? But when I do, when we were doing metaphysical shows around the country, I pretty much always will do a lecture because obviously I like to talk and I'm not too shy. And the audience will have questions, and based on their question, and I've had people confirm this, my body language shifts. My voice tone will also shift. I don't get all squeaky or that, but it shifts enough that for those that are super paying attention, apparently it does. And it's not something that I'm aware of because the way I channel, so to answer your question, do I do a meditation? No. Do I have a ritual? Depends. I I finished my second deck, and it's Mary Magdalene's. I did notice that she and I would start working every day around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I do have her candle. That's my product, and it has her sigil on the label. So as part of the ritual, I would light her candle, and then she would just plow through, and we would do a few cards, because the cards are taking a completely different trajectory than the Angel Chatter cards. And I've let a few people think, they go, oh, this is so not you, and very, very different energy than the Angel cards, which was lovely to hear, because I really don't want it to be me. I want it to be her. See, that's the human me coming out. When I'm working with clients, who's showing up today? Can I do it on command? Honestly, I don't know. No one's ever said, hey, can you channel Michael right now? If they did that, I would probably skirt back and become kind of a deal. I don't know if I can do that right now.
Yeah, and I think as soon as and I'm sorry to cut you off. It's just our audio is
okay.
A delay in it, so I thought there was a pause there when I started talking. I think if someone was to do that, you start thinking too much into yourself.
Exactly.
And that makes the doorway a little bit like there's all of a sudden you're throwing a bunch of cardboard boxes in the doorway, and now it's going to take a bit to open it up.
That's a beautiful way to describe it, because it would be then, can I me being me, can I do it good enough for them? Can I help them right now? And then I start overthinking it. Yeah. And that's when I get into trouble, when I overthink.
Christine, I ask because there are times when I talk to you and you actually will say something and then you'll say, oh, that's them talking, or you'll get information and it's like, oh, they just came in and told me to say that. And that's very common talking to you. So it's like they're there with you all the time anyway. Yeah. And kind of standing in line waiting for, like, I'm going to step in here and give her a hand, or I'm going to do that. So it's not really... take a deep breath, Chris. We are going to take over and we are going to do all the talking right now. They're constantly giving you breadcrumbs.
And you're absolutely right. It is a constant. Clients and the majority of my family kind of understand that, because all of a sudden it'll come out and it'd be one of those surreal things where I'll see my mouth moving and going, where the heck is that coming from? And then I'll look at them and I'll go, that so wasn't me. You know, they had to come in and add that point, or say, okay, so I'm getting ready for my student retreat right now, virtual, of course, this year. And I've reached out to a few saying, hey, not to be the used car salesman or sound like I'm really nagging, because I know it can kind of come across as nagging, but you are supposed to be there. So there, I've said their piece and carry on. And some people I won't even go near. Like, no, they're not, they don't need to be there this year. And I've learned kind of maybe to just run with it and just, it is what it is. And it's rather interesting. I'm working on my blog post that will come out later today. And it's including a very large portion of the post this week will be a channeled message from them. And it's out. But I had places to go and things to do. So I told them, hold that thought. I'll be back to finish later. So, when you and I finish, I'll go back and pick it right back up and carry on. So it's fun. I will say it is very fun. I don't feel my energy shift per se, though I can tell when it's them. So when you've seen when I do the daily messages for social media, it's definitely them that come through. And oftentimes the message that I relay is they're going, are you paying attention? This applies to you too, young lady. And I go, okay, got it. And because it pertains to so many of us. I can't be the only one frustrated right now, or I can't be out through the dailies, as I call them, are good for pretty much everybody.
Let's go to the website, the angelchatter.com, and sign up, and also take a look at all the different classes that Christine does and provides. It's very, very cool, because you are, well, a lot of things.
Yes, I am.
Well, you are
it's
certainly
Gigi
a lot of things.
to you, grand goddess. Gigi. I'm a grand goddess.
Gigi. Oh, so, but you're a transformational coach. It's, and that, even that term, transformational coach, takes in so much, because when people find their way to you, and I'm in my belief system is that the people that find their way to you are actually guided to you.
Yes.
And
most
they
definitely.
Show up. They are ready for the hit. I describe. So I'm going down. A lot of people, or not a lot of people, but people. Some of them are born and they die going straight down the lane, hitting the pins, going. Other people like me are like bouncing off those railings way down.
It's over on the aisle left. Ooh, that looks shiny. Oh, let's try over here now. Ooh, shiny moment.
Squirrel. Yeah, and so you come in as an assistant to the bumpers.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. So, but it's not like you go out soliciting well, I shouldn't say that, because you do as a business operator and as an author, I'm here. But the ones that come to you are ready in their life, on their path. You're a dead human standing beside somebody. Like, they're not ghosts. They're crossed over. They're kind of helping them. And they're the ones who give me hand signals and stuff. And one of the signals I always get from people who are other empaths and other people out helping is like this bag over their shoulder full of seeds, and they stick their hand in their pocket and they're throwing it like they're planting. That is similar to the way I see what you do. There's a number of people out there. You're throwing the seeds out and hits them in the top of the head, and some of them germinate.
Yes,
some of them
you
don't.
for plugging my website. So, as that plant of seeding right now, I offer a free multi-module class on Archangel Michael. And that is the same, that's not the same exact one, but Michael is the angel I start everybody with, because I've at least offered you the information and tools, because it's not just a bunch of words, and tools to better protect yourself energetically as you continue along your physical, spiritual, mental, and emotional path. So it is very much planting seeds. You know, for a while, I felt like I was the used car salesman. Hey, I can help you. Come here. Let me tell you how. And they're like, oh my God, crazy lady. So that obviously didn't work really well. And I had to learn the hard way to offer unless asked. Because unless they ask, they are so not going to hear the suggestion.
Yeah.
And even when they ask, sometimes they don't want to hear it. So they'll go like, and walk away. I'm like, okay, fine. That's on you to decide to take it or not. I'm just the messenger here, folks. I'm just to me, for you and you alone. So as an example, I do a monthly offering where you can get a card and a channeled message just for you every Monday for that month. And this is, of course, a fee thing. And it's crazy. Some months, there'll be the same card showing up. And the human in me will go, that message is so different than the last one I just did for that person. So it's for me, is like, okay, this isn't me making crap up to make you feel better. This really is them. But see, I still second guess myself. It's that human, that ego who says, okay, who am I? And why do I have this beautiful gift? It's really, but yet it's a lovely thing. I have people that can't. I actually have one client. She says, aren't you going to offer that soon? She goes, I can't miss next month. I love getting these little snippets that take me through the week. Cool. And so once people really discover me, and my students are finally when I say I'm here for you, it's not lip service. So, when I did all of my studies and whatnot, when the course was over, that was it. Teacher gone. Bye-bye. Thanks. Oh, that was lovely. Is anybody going to help me here? Oh, no. You're on your own. And it was horrible. Oh my God, my face is huge. So you have all of those things that go through your head and no one's guiding me. I'm making this crap up every single show. I'm like, So when my students become authorized, they get one more document from me to help them from a business standpoint. At least I know I've offered them to you. And by the way, I'm sorry, you're still stuck with me for another year. So if you have questions that I can help you with, that's all part of your tuition. So, and they're like, you really mean that? Yeah, I do. I'm not going to say something of that energy magnitude and not follow through. That's just bad juju. That's just mean that. I'm here. If I say I'm here to inspire and empower you, I'm going to do my best to do just that, which is why the product line keeps growing. I have the books, I have the jewelry, I have the aromatherapy, because not everybody responds to the same thing in the same way. I learn by visual reading, but I also need to hear it literally. Then it has a fighting chance of sinking in. Yeah. If I just have to read something, it's a yawner.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah, it's like, if you send me a book, it better have pictures in it. Or it better be on audiobook too.
Right. So that's why, the Michael class PDF downloads, but there's also, yay me, there's a video of me for every lesson within every module. So it will rehash what's in your PDF plus, so it's up to you to take notes, but then that's how all of my courses going forward will be the auditory, visual, the video portion, but a PDF for homework and notes. And these are the really big tidbits they want to make sure you saw and get. So we all learn different ways. And I'm trying to remember how I felt during and after classes, whether it was a good teacher or most often not so good teacher, and how would I do it differently? If I left with a boatload of questions, which is I often did, I needed to include that information when I taught. It's like with the authorization course, it's based off the Angel Chatter book, my last one, Angel Chatter, Heavenly Guidance. Yes, the one you have. Thank you very much. It doesn't have many pictures, so please be patient.
It's a gift for a friend.
Oh, good.
So they didn't.
There you go. And so, working on all of these things, it just became really important. So there's a lesson actually in the authorization group about terminology that's not in the book because, the readers really didn't want that part, but it was important for my students to not feel stupid if I keep throwing out a term and they have no clue. Because I remember taking my very, very, very first Reiki class. I was so young and green. Chakras. And my head's going, what's a chakra? I have no idea what she's talking about. And I felt stupid for asking because the way she was talking, we were supposed to know these things. So I included a section for the group. Some things are going to be things are going to be like, oh, did not know that. So it was at least a place where everybody could be at the same level. They could, if they didn't grasp it, they can always go back to it because it's kind of a glossary but it's that important for me. That's an empowering thing. If I'm here to teach you and you walk away with a boatload of questions or I make you feel less than, how good of a teacher is that? How good of a teacher is if I'm not there to help you during and after the course. To me, it's not a very good teacher. So those classes I've taken, I learned many things. The curriculum, sure, but then how the class was conducted and how I felt during and afterwards. So I've taken all of those lessons to heart. And that's why some people can crank out a course in a weekend, and God love them. But I can't. because I will definitely get into overthinking, and I will most definitely, because I'm prone to over delivering, but I would having you feel like I took advantage of you and just took your money and walked away.
Yeah.
Because that's just kind of how I roll.
Well, you've got some good stuff on your website. I'm kind of tossing and turning about getting the Oracle deck because it comes with a guidebook, and I've always been told to throw the guidebook away as soon as you get your deck.
And I wouldn't disagree for a seasoned person.
Oh, that was my very first time. I had 3 psychics looking at me and saying, "Take this book. Oh, it's really nice, isn't it?"
Well,
throw it away. Because my cards were actually there was nothing written on the cards.
For you specifically, you personally, I wouldn't disagree with, because it was a lesson for you to better trust what the messages you were receiving.
Yeah, and not to try to stick that round peg into the square hole that was the book. And that way overthink things and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm still probably going to get yours. But you also have guided meditations right up on your guided meditations. Corby Mitlead, who I've interviewed before, who's really, really cool in her past life stuff. So
the energies of the violet flame, which says the deck is always transmuting. It's always clearing itself. And again, you all proved that to me, because we're at shows and we're tired after Sunday night. Pack up. We actually would time ourselves. Can we beat our time from last time? It's just pack it up and head on out. I'm not clearing. I'll be honest. I was not clearing the deck. I get home and it would sit where it was, and it would come back out for the next show. But time and time again, I would see people, because we had a mosh pit on the corner, and people, for people to understand and play with the cards, because they are different, and you kind of want to, give them a test run before you buy them. And they go, "Oh my God, we were just talking. Did you just see the card I just got?" And they're going on and on and on, and this is happening consistently. So I said, "Okay, guys, explain what's going on here." They go, "Oh yeah, we didn't tell you because we didn't want to scare you, but we put the energy of the violet flame in the project. So yeah, it's always clearing itself."
Oh, good.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. Good to know. And which now explains why the box and the cards are purple. Purple's a lovely color. I'm not dissing purple, but it's not one of my favorites. And I tried different colors, and they all looked crappy. They said, "We want purple," but I don't like purple. Everybody does purple in the woo-woo world. Too bad. The deck's being purple. You see who won. The deck is purple.
And there's probably a reason why everybody does purple in the woo-woo world, because that's what's supposed to be.
Right. But being me, trying to go against the flow a little bit, I would have picked out a different color at the time. But now knowing that the violet flame is infused into all of this, okay, now that makes sense. I can live with it. I get it. So it's kind of, they often will tell me things ahead of time. Okay.
Well, there's reasons for that too. They don't want to, the way I get it is they don't want to allow you to prejudge.
Exactly. Or in my case, go, what? Yeah. We're doing what?
We're doing what today? Christine, before I let you go,
yep,
I'm going to throw something out to you, and it's about this whole global pandemic.
Sure.
Now, as you know, I'm and I don't watch a lot of American television. I watch your TV primarily on the West Coast. But it's like, if there's a bunch of us over here, we'll turn it on just for poops and giggles.
Yeah.
And then just real quickly, can you hear me right now?
I can.
Okay, good, because a window popped up here saying, "Warning, cannot get normal audio data."
Oh, dear.
So I'm like, oh, great. So I'm just double checking. So just nod your head if you're listening.
Absolutely.
So I can hear the wheels, and France has a plan, Japan has a plan. And we look, our news kind of points at you guys, and we're like, okay, you're 4% of the entire population of the planet, and it's that me thing going on.
Very, very much so.
it's that me thing. Oh, this is a plot by the opposition party for the government that's in power right now. And it's all them making us wear masks, and it's them. The COVID isn't really a bad thing. And, it's all blown out of proportion. And we're looking at it going, damn, you get a lot of dead people right now.
Yeah.
and they're increasing. So what is it that is going on about the me? Is it, and this is a rhetorical question, but this is what I perceive, is that there's been this, I'm going to lock myself in the basement, lock my house, put a fence around my house, put a fence around my town, my county, my state, my country. Just leave me alone. It's all mine. This is my stuff, and you can't tell me to do something. And my perception is, it's like we're getting ready globally to say, okay, these are the people who get it. These are the people who don't. It's not like, some people are kind of awakening, and some people are living better with others, and we're all like going from, again, third dimension to fifth dimension. Right. The third dimension people are digging in pretty hard.
They're digging in very, very hard. But it's one of those illustrations of Black Lives Matter here. And my son-in-law is Black, and I don't profess to know all that he's gone through, but compelled to go down to a quiet demonstration in downtown DC. And 98% of the people there were very respectful and loving. There were a few that you could tell just by their demeanor and their energy, very, very angry. So it's one of those, the loudest ones are heard the most. And certainly there's a faction of that in this country. But one of the I do, and that's begin to comprehend, honestly, at times. But there was, because this country was built on rebellion. Hello, Revolutionary War, right? So it's all about bucking. It's like it's ingrained in this country's DNA. It's, I have to rebel whatever rule you give me. And it's those that are complying they're not weak. They're just going, okay, this makes sense. I'm not going to get into, well, I'm more informed and I'm better, because that gets into the judgment. I've chosen to do. And you also have a right if you choose not to. But just as, there have been many stories and videos, and I'm sure you've seen quite a few, of people refusing to wear a mask and having a complete meltdown. But every store has that right. No shirts, no shoes, no service. Okay, just add on there, no mask, no service. The store, that business has indeed its right as they choose to. So where this is going, I'm going to go back to that 8-pointed star. And I'm hoping I'm so right on this, or better. And it's the breakdown as they have been sharing it with me. Things often need to break before they can be fixed. The Japanese have that beautiful, the name escapes me, but whenever a vessel breaks, they repair it with melted gold, which then creates this beautiful artwork from something broken. So what people have a chance to do here is not to gloss over what is happening, is to address it as much as they can, because in order for something to be better, what has been wrong needs to be addressed, for starters. You can't make a cake and, substitute salt for sugar. It's completely inedible. So by learning the better ingredients, and this is probably a really bad metaphor, but by learning the better ingredients of how things could work better, things need to be broken first. This country is certainly breaking in many, many ways. But I found a beautiful feather last night, And the message that keeps coming through is that there's hope. And hope is the definition is to, I'm going to paraphrase, but to have better based on what you currently know. To hope doesn't mean you're wishy-washy and ignoring, but it's going, okay, I can have hope that this will get better. This needs to indeed happen, so things can be as they are designed to be, which is all of humanity working together, all of humanity learning to respect, not necessarily forgetting, because forgetting is just, you're doomed to repeat history, but by forgiving, because then one begins to give back to themselves. Because remember, it always starts on the inside. So when we start paying attention to how things are triggered, we are better able then to address outwardly to a variety of topics, whether it's healing, civil unrest, medicine, going to the tools that you have and how you can best apply them to inspire and help others. Thank you.
Perfect. Moving from me to we.
Exactly. And that's kind of what it comes down to. This is, I think some of the conspiracy theories are calling this the Great Awakening. And I'm not going to disagree with that title we've been given, but this is not a conspiracy theory plug by any stretch of the imagination. But this is our golden opportunity to snap out of the fog many have lived in for decades, perhaps centuries. And it's time to go, okay, this has been broken. We've chugged along the good fight, but it's been broken. It is so broken, and it needs to be fixed, and it's screaming to be fixed. And it's time.
If you look at, I talked to Dick Larson, who talks about the coming of Maitreya, and the kind of a karmic shift. Europe during the First and Second World War was basically put through a meat grinder and then built. Same with Japan and parts of China as a result of the Second World War. The United States made a lot of money from supplying, and a lot of Americans died in the Second World War, but the country itself was never broken. And it hasn't had that break for 150 years. The Civil War was a horrible karmic catastrophe. But and we've come out of that, and it hasn't really. It's like
agreed. Absolutely agreed.
And it's like payments coming, and we talk a lot on this show. We talk with other people about the shift, the shift. Living with the earth and not off of the earth, and things that are coming and things that are going to be better.
Oh, yeah. We didn't even talk about the ecological benefits of what's been going on, that things are broken, right? I mean, that's a whole other show in itself.
And I've been telling people, investigated and did surveillance on a serial killer, and the results of what happened in our country as a result of an inquiry after he got convicted of killing 22 people of the 50 that he did kill. It actually started a national inquiry into the murdered and missing Aboriginal women. And that inquiry pulled the lid off all this catastrophe that was going on in the Indian communities, the First Nations communities here, and the lack of support and help for victims of sexual abuse and domestic violence and things. It was like, how many people had to die for the government to go, oh, we should pay attention to this? Was it 3, 4, 5? No, don't tell me we don't have an effect on the planet we're living on.
Oh, we still have an effect. My sister started a campaign last year. She lives about an hour from me now, very, very close to the Potomac River, which can be very much a cesspool. It's basically, I'll just toss it in here. And where they live is close to a basin area, which pretty much collects everything. Mm-hmm. And I helped her once last year. And throughout the course of all the times that they did this, and they didn't do it that often, I think they had close to 6 tons of trash. It was insane. We had, the day we were there, and we were only there for 2 hours, we had 60 bags of stuff. But since she had been doing it, the bald eagles came back. The day I was there, we saw fox going, hey, yay, you're here. Let's get this done. The wildlife immediately responded to the emptiness of tires and styrofoam and golf balls and pens and shoes. I found shoes, and I told her, if I find a foot attached to the shoe, that's it, I'm done. This is getting a little too crazy. Who throws a shoe away? And it was just insane. So it's that me.
Good.
And just pick up as I go along.
I do that too. Yeah, it's our responsibility. This is our stewardship. We get to live here. We have bird species coming through this area that haven't been here since the turn of the century because they bypassed it due to pollution.
Right.
And that's not like, after 90 days it happened. It was like a month.
Right.
That's how quickly things cleared out.
Like I said, we get to live here. This isn't our right. We are stewards of this blue and green ball that we happen to be walking upon. We're stewards of it. We don't own it. It's up to us to tend. And part of that tending is tending to the occupants, whether it's my cats that are crawling all over me right now, or the birds in your area, or dare I forget, our fellow human.
Yes. I always say I own this land that I live on.
Right.
But only while I'm alive.
Right.
It's like
the bank is kind enough to say, yeah, you own it.
Yeah. The bank can. I gave a lot of money to someone else so I could occupy this residence, and eventually I will get money for it for someone else to occupy it. So I'm stewards of the land.
Exactly.
And I'd like my ex. Her parents had a farm, a big, huge cattle farm. And her sister lives there with her husband and their kids now. And the grandmother lives there. And it's still like a river going through it and ranch land and everything. But that land was there before they were born. And it will be there long after they die. Let's hope. But it's not like it's quote unquote their land. They've paid a lot of money over time.
Sure.
To be allowed to be the stewards of that land.
Right. And I was raised, and I have instilled this into our now adult children. You leave something better than you found it.
Yes.
And sometimes better is just picking up that can. I mean, my husband used to laugh at me. So we would travel for the shows, which means we're at rest stops, et cetera. And I would come home with a stash of things I picked up underneath my car seat. He says, "What are you doing?" I said, "It's not taking up any more space in the car. It's a cubby. It's underneath my seat, and I'm going to recycle it." So he started playing along. But it's just, you leave it better than you found it, because I am giving back to the land. I'm actually tilling the soil on a regular basis. So it's not so much clay. So it can offer more life, hopefully leaving it better than we found it.
Oh, yeah. It's like you used to always say, leave only footprints, take only pictures.
Right, exactly.
I'm going to let you go now because my listener probably hung up by then. So it's weird. But I want everybody to please drop by your website, Christine Alexandria's website of angelchatter.com, and see all the different things she does, and all the if you're interested in angels and aromatherapy and your classwork.
Thank you.
And oracle cards like I'm going to get. And yes, I'm going to get the guided meditation.
There you go.
Oh, man. If you want to follow her on the Facebook, it's Christine Alexandria on Facebook. And check out her mini Archangel Michael class.
Which is absolutely free. Take it twice.
Absolutely.
Twice is free.
But your exchange rate's still higher than me, so even free is still 39 cents on the dollar. Also, you're on Twitter at CH Alexandria.
I am.
CH_Alexandria on Twitter. And please just drop by.
Yeah, please do. And if you are on Facebook, come join us in Sacred Space. Yes, Sacred Space on Facebook. It's a real thing. It's a closed group called Angel Chatter. You have to answer a few simple questions because we keep it sacred. And guess what? It's a no political zone, period.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
You say anything politics related, guess what? You're out and you're banned for life. This is a place to relax, question, ask, support, all sorts of things. And it's amazing.
Oh, it's fun.
It is fun because, I just started it. I just said yes and started it. And it's all the members that make it amazing. So I'm just the steward for the group. That's all I am.
And you have great members. Some of them are a friend of mine. It's like Adam Bernstein. It's
cool.
Guys from all over the place. Lorianne Lothian, who does our astrological, when I draw names from our Patreon people, which I have to do, but Patreon's charging tax on it now. So it's not like they're winning prizes. They're actually just being given these things.
Got it.
Of no value at all. Don't tell Patreon. But Lorianne's great. She had COVID.
Oh, wow.
I know, right?
So I guess she's okay now, right?
She is. She's better. She's not like our other psychic friends. So, they've died, but they're better now. But no, she was out here in Vancouver visiting, and she got it. And when she's back in Montreal, and Montreal had they got hit hard from it.
Oh.
But yeah, she's doing better.
Oh, that's good.
I phone her, and I'm always getting her when she's too busy and not able to answer the phones. But that's great. Anyway, thanks a lot, Christine. I know we've had some technical difficulties.
I apologize, everybody that was listening. Thank you for sticking with us, and we'll try to fix that for next time.
Excellent. Okay, you have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too, James.
Watching you while you sleep on and on.
All right, that's it. Let's roll. And hey. Let's be careful out there.
Far over the snow, what are those voices? They sing as they go, what are those voices? Look up for the mountain. Wake up, somebody hide, somebody better hide through the hill, like a pack of angry wolves on the trail. Dead or alive, we are out to get you, dead or alive. And forget yourself. If you're the one, better run away. Son, you are done, throw your gun away. Here come the Mounties to get the man they're after now. Run through the hill, like a pack of angry wolves on the trail. Dead or alive, we are out to get you, dead or alive. If you're the one, better run away. Son, you are done, throw your gun away. Here come the Mounties to get the man they're after. No!
I see dead